later. Tonight, we've got the director of Avengers, Joe here with Donald Mustard, Fortnite, and then this evening we've got an awesome performance of some of the score of God of War. So lots of great stuff. Thanks for coming to the Coliseum. Right now, we are going to move on to Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Yes, I see many people with their Black Ops hats, so clearly you guys have probably already been to the booth, played it. We're going to talk about something that's not at the booth. We're going to talk about zombies. I hope that's okay with you guys. So let's
hey guys.
Jason! Talk about all things zombies.
Adam! Hey guys.
And Brian.
Hey guys.
Adam, Brian.
Jason!
Have you guys with us here.
Adam!
Now, zombies. I was telling Jason backstage, I was talking to Mark Lamia from Trek a few weeks ago. We were having dinner, and I was saying it was 10 years ago on my old Spike show that we revealed that there's this crazy idea of zombies in Call of Duty and World at War.
Yep.
And it was, it was right at launch. You guys had sort of not really shared anything about it. I don't think anyone knew kind of quite what to make of it. And here we are a decade later.
Yep.
And people don't just appreciate it. They absolutely love what you guys do with zombies. It started as this Easter egg in World at War. I'd be curious to hear the history, and I know a lot of you guys have been, involved in it since the beginning. Where did this come from? Because, at the time, Call of Duty was very much, rooted in reality, and following the franchise from when it started, it was, very real, and it was cinematic at times, but
sure.
Super real. So this concept of kind of just twisting things a little bit and introducing zombies, like what was the genesis of that inside the studio?
Well, I mean, one thing that you kind of can't take away from the creation of it is that the time in the project when it was created, which was right at the very end, right at the point when teams are the most stressed. Everything's kind of being packed in. You're trying to lock a game down. And so subsequently, there's so many different stories about where it kind of came from, because all the different voices.
Everyone's taking credit, in other words.
But what I can say, and again, holding the torch for it at the moment, part of my job was to go back and kind of talk to people and look at stuff and find out different opinions on it. It came from the design department.
Okay.
And that idea was floated, and then different groups in the studio kind of came together and started adding stuff.
Was it like let's put zombies in the game, or let's come up with a different game mode, or?
To my understanding, it was looking at the assets they had. They had I think it was Peleliu. I think there was an explosion with these kind of soldiers stumbling around the place, and the comment was they look like zombies. So it's like use that animation, kind of bring that in, and then kind of different groups, different areas. Be it sound or animation.
I'll never forget. 2 o'clock in the morning when I got a request for zombie sounds. I'm like, wait, what? We're making Call of Duty, but
wow.
It's just grown and turned into something so special especially for us.
Yeah.
And that's why it was, and because of that way that it was created, that's why it's something that we're very proud of, which was different people just coming together and making something, just adding the different kind of talents, the different kind of groups. It was something that, at the time, lots of people said we shouldn't do.
Right.
And I wasn't actually on the project at that point in time, but I would have said that as well.
Well, no, and it's just so different, and, you said it's one thing to have, an Easter egg, right, or a zombie that shows up in a level or something. But this was, like a new game mode, the idea of waves, of sort of, that whole idea. I mean, Adam, you were obviously involved in, animation and thinking about, what this was going to be. But the game mode and that concept of these waves, like where did that come from?
It was. So as it's been told to me, it was that idea of kind of tower defense.
Yeah.
The idea of tower defense games that were very popular.
True. I think you're right. I do remember that.
On Flash games at the time.
Exactly.
And that's where, being able to kind of jump in there and then use 3D assets and a first-person experience for tower defense was very novel. And, the big kind of love of zombies hadn't really caught steam. So we were one of the first to be there, doing the kind of zombie material. But it was so out of left field that the part of the conversation with Activision was, okay, you can put it in, but we're not going to promote this. We're not going to talk about this with anyone. And I think, to be honest, part of its success was due to that. Because then it became the kind of people's game. It was the people's mode. Rather than if we promoted it and marketed it.
I remember it because we were doing an episode of a TV show, and I think it was like the week before launch or something, and then we just sort of hinted at this other thing, and I think everyone online was like, what are they talking about? Because you're right, it was pretty hidden. Like, how was it close to not happening?
Absolutely. I mean, there was we had to put it in front of certain Activision executives. Yeah. And it was
unnamed Activision.
It was done in a kind of closed room. I mean, I've told this story before, but it's put in this kind of closed room where we'd bring an executive in and say, okay, play this, and then, you know, we don't need to do this, you can walk away.
Right.
And then we'd get emails back that would say, I got to round 20.
Right.
You know, I got to round 25. So these executives were like getting so competitive about it.
Yeah.
That's when we kind of knew that we had to kind of put it in. But it was, again, just to kind of go back, it was the fact that everyone in the studio started giving more and more time on top of the job they were already doing, adding things in from the different disciplines to make this thing come to life.
I remember being around the studio, and they said there was this energy, I think, that everyone was playing. I mean, Adam, you've been on this project for a long time over the years.
Yeah.
Was there... I mean, I assume it created an energy that was just so different. And, you know, again, this was Call of Duty after many years of making, you know, amazing games. But, you know, it's like, which war do you depict next? How do you sort of, you know, and it was a freshness, I guess, right?
Absolutely. Even now, we have a lot of fun telling these new kinds of stories, new approach on telling stories. You know, it's not your typical linear, here's a story, now go play. You know, we like to set it up, show some things and not show other things, but it's how you experience the game, and you go in there and listen to the players talking, and the story unfolds that way. So it allowed us to kind of explore different ways of telling stories and developing characters and building worlds.
Yep, absolutely. And from an audio perspective, I imagine, Brian, you know, you've been such a key part of the franchise over all these years. But for you and your guys, I imagine it allows you to flex a completely different muscle.
We started, you know, Call of Duty is all about being as real as possible. So everything needs to be realistic and grounded. And
every gun records sound.
Everything, right? And then when the zombie thing happened, it was like, oh, this is new. This is something completely different. And creatively, just the mindset you have to have to even work on it is completely different. And so it was really refreshing, and it completely energized my entire team.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and you know, as you said, it really is one where you can brainstorm, right? And I think, like, you know,
can't wait
you
to see what they're going to bring up, guys.
like, all right, here's our period and our setting, and, you know, there's within limits you can sort of do things. Where zombies, I imagine you sort of have a blank slate in terms of where you're going to do, what it's going to be every year, and, you know, sometimes I know it'll tie to the sort of fiction or time period of some of the games. Other times it's just, you know, completely divorced.
Well, when it was first created, the characters didn't have any voices.
Yeah.
You know, they were, and so the community kind of took it upon themselves to find the story in it, even though there was very kind of bare bones of what was there. They would start writing the story. Yeah. And then it was only a little bit later that, you know, the audio department primarily started writing as well, writing the kind of narrative of what was kind of going on.
Yeah, I mean, really early on, we didn't have any characters speaking at all in Nocturne Toten, and then we tried to have some first-person voice in Verrückt, where we had kind of a bland set of characters. But the problem was it was hard to tell who was who, and it was because there were very similar actors reading a very similar script. So one of the guys at some point said, hey, if we make characters, you know, I'll be able to tell who's who better. And that's where the original characters from Shi no Numa came from.
Yeah, because, I mean, you said the mode has definitely evolved. I mean, we'll get to Black Ops 4, but it's just sort of like, I don't know how you guys come up with this stuff. You've gotten even more sort of, you know, brainstorming in terms of where these things have gone. But tell us about, you know, the evolution, because, you know, still those waves of zombies, that's part of it. But then, you know, the idea of, you said, introducing, you know, characters, you know, time periods. I mean, when you track sort of the past decade of zombies, are there certain moments to you that feel like there sort of were, you know, big gates of progress?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, you had that fundamental core, which was fantastic because, you know, I came on a little bit later on. I came on DLC 3, which was Derice in World at War. Yeah. And I think I've said this in the past, which was, he said, how did you feel about that? I was like, I was crapping myself. You know, it was the scariest thing I'd ever had in my professional career, which was to be given something that was so beloved by so many, and then say, okay, now make something new. And there's always that pressure to be respectful of the thing that came before and the success of it, but then also not to rest on your laurels and to go further. You know, Zombies very much has a rock and roll, anti-authority streak straight through it. You know, when you hear the kind of origin of this mode, it's been, you know, our purpose is to kind of keep that vibe alive. Yeah. And so that means kind of pushing things, testing things, taking that idea that comes at the last second and running with it. And I feel very passionate about that's how we keep Zombies fresh and how we keep it new. But you can't just kind of do that and just be pulling it out of the air every 5 seconds. So it's that combination of the rebel kind of craziness combined with a structure that you need to make sure that these professionals also can then take that and build a coherent world, right? So that's the thing that we've kept on going as we've kind of gone forward. So it's, introduce new maps, introduce new ideas, take something that everyone would say is sacrosanct and say, okay, let's put that on one side for a moment. Or let's take something that you all assume is absolutely solid and change it.
No, that was always, when you you do DLC map packs, and I was like, it's cool for new maps, but then when you would always talk about here's what's coming to zombies, it would just be themed in such an interesting, different way. You just immediately be like, it feels like a new game, right? And there was that freshness that I think excited a lot of the fans that you guys were just doing something completely out there.
Well, and it's a hard thing, right? Because the fans, you guys, would say...
they're right here.
would say, this is something which, okay, it needs to go here next. Yeah. And there's that kind of pressure, which is, okay, delivering for the fans to keep them happy, but also sometimes taking that left turn is what they need also. So that's the delicate balance between, not just trolling, but also looking to looking to kind of change it, because that's how you, reinvent it for a new generation. Right?
No, and that's part of the thing I think is the, continuity, because you guys have definitely gone in a bunch of different directions with it, and it's fresh, but also, as you said, people have favorites, like what happened to these characters, or, go back to this setting. Adam, from, your perspective in the animation team, I imagine, whenever these ideas get dreamed up, it allows you guys to sort of think of completely different environments. I mean, is that sort of the zombies what everyone wants to work on, because it's so
I do. I love it. And what's fun for me is right next door is Craig's office.
Yeah.
So when Jason and Craig come out of there full of energy, I'm like, all right, what are we doing? Yeah. Let us know. Come on. And then as soon as he tells us, the animation team, we just love to go and just start to create, come up with ideas, talk with Jason, try to refine these ideas, and we're just so full of energy and excitement because it's so fantastical and full of wonder, and we get to try new techniques and new approaches to storytelling. It's just, it's a blast.
And audio-wise, as Jason said, very much, kind of rock and roll, anti-establishment, so allows you guys to definitely flex a very different muscle, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just so many varied experiences across all of our maps going back to the beginning, and it's always this new challenge. Like, how are we going to do the moon, right? There's no sound there. So it's creatively really empowering to work on.
Yeah. Are there any ideas that you sort of prototype or concepts that you sort of go down the path and you're like, this isn't working, or too far? I mean, I'm sure you put it back on the shelf, but are there sort of the lost zombies,
Yeah,
ideas?
I mean, so zombies, coming from the beginning, right? Zombies comes from the spare bits left over.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's always been in our kind of DNA when we look at zombies. So if we try and do something, and maybe it doesn't work out this project, it gets put aside and then comes back, There was a DLC for World at War that never made it. Well, you look at the kind of maps in Black Ops 1, and that was the leftover bits from the DLC 4 that was never made. So sometimes we'll try an idea, sometimes it doesn't come through. Yeah. Or more the case nowadays is that we'll have more ideas than we can actually execute in the time period. Yeah. So we just say, okay, let's hold them, and then let's come back to them a little bit later on.
A lot of great ideas. Yeah.
Well, and there have been some insane, maps over the years, the moon, I mean, other crazy things. Do you guys have any favorites out of the 10 years of ones that you sort of personally, speak to you personally? You guys?
Shinonuma for me, just because it was the Ultimus crew, and we introduced them for the first time. And if you look back, I think that map's a little underrated. It actually plays really well, but also a lot of the things in that map grew into what we have today. Yeah. So I always look back, I got excited when we remastered it recently, so I'm like, I get to go back to the beginning of the characters here, which is cool.
Yeah, I agree. The audio on that just blew my mind. Like, I loved Zombies before that, but I remember playing in that hut where you start off and you're looking out the windows and you could just hear the zombies creeping up. It drew me in. I love that map,
I'm biased, so I'm going to say Mob of the Dead.
Yeah. You're into that.
That's just a shameless plug for Blood of the Dead right there. But, for me it was, and again, one of those maps where we get to take a left turn and try something different. Yeah. And every time you do that, you never know what's going to kind of stick and what's going to work. And I just felt really happy that we got the vibe, and it was one of the first ones where we all went out on location. So we all went down to San Francisco and recorded and captured all the textures and all this kind of fun stuff. So I felt like all the components were working in kind of tandem and kind of telling that story.
Yeah. And that movie was a lot of fun to make too.
Yeah, the movie as well. Yeah.
I mean, black and white, and a lot of fun.
So that's why I just think it's such a white space that you guys just every year get to kind of come up, or every 3 years get to come up with something crazy. Oh, I guess with DLCs you do every
yeah, it's
year,
like, let's do Stalingrad, but let's put a huge dragon in there while we're at it. Or let's do World War I with massive robots.
Fits in the picture. I mean, is there we should talk a bit about the canon of zombies, because you push in so many different directions. I mean, is there the official lore? I mean, how much do you track in terms of that?
There is the official lore. There is the official timeline that we released when we did Chronicles. So we put the huge timeline out, and that was a trip. So we had it all being kind of logged in a kind of roundabout way, a napkin here or a Post-it note there. And I popped into the narrative team and said, hey guys, just got a little bit of a weekend task for you.
Exactly. Make this all work.
Can you just write down the entire storyline in one coherent way? And I think it was like 2.5 months later to actually correlate it all and bring it all together. So yes, there's an official.
It all works somehow.
It all works, but here's the thing: in the same way in the cinematics or in the audio, sometimes it's not just the things that you tell, but the things that you don't tell.
Right.
And that's just as much of an active choice, So sometimes it's the negative space in the picture rather than the detail.
You'll go fill in it at some point. You've also had some really great celeb cameos over the years. That's one of sort of my favorite moments, or some of the talent that comes in. Again, Black Ops has had some great talent in the main game, but Zombies you have as well. Any favorites?
Bless you. Thank you. My one, I'm going to go with Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff was a force of nature. So normally when you do VO recording, someone kind of goes in the booth, you're sitting out there with your audio director, and they'll read the line, and then they'll do it 3 times, then you say, I'll take the B take, or I'll take the A take. Yeah. Jeff came in, and we just let it run. Because he would, he'd just kind of warm in and he'd be like, yes, well, yes, the shield is quicker than the eye, and just kind of do it like a couple of times, right? And he would just go there, and then he would read the next person's lines as well. Yeah. Well, what has my wife done? Just start
That's
going
what needs to be released.
Yeah, and it was so good that we just couldn't call takes. Yeah. So he was absolutely amazing. Yeah.
And I'm sure from animation cinematics perspective, it's fun because often you've had the characters look like those actual talents, right? Yeah. Any fun stories for you, Adam?
Well, one of the first celebrity ones that we did was with Michael Rooker.
That's right.
On Call of the Dead, and that was a lot of fun. The energy he brought there was just infectious. He took it all seriously. He brought his A performance every single time. There was times we had to be like, whoa, they're not real, but he would go in there and have this energy of like, come here, I'm going to get, it was so much fun to work with that guy.
That's awesome. Brian?
I mean, my favorite's Rooker also. He was amazing. But, the celebrity maps just kind of gave us all yet another break on this narrative thing we were on. Yeah. So, I actually love all those maps for completely different reasons.
Yeah,
that's a good point,
Now, one thing we haven't talked about, which we absolutely should, is the community that has built around zombies. And, the Easter eggs. I mean, it's fascinating. I remember years ago on YouTube, I'd be watching, Noah J or something. It's like all these people watching his stream months after the game has come out as he's searching for something. And it's been so much fun. Tell us a bit about the zombies community, many of which are probably here today at E3. They are so passionate about this mode. And tell me sort of about the evolution of that, and I think the fun sort of relationship that Treyarch has with the community.
Yeah, well, I would say that their passion is what inspires us to do the best work of our career.
Absolutely.
It's the fact that they're so into it that drives us. It sounds cliched, but it truly is, because we feel this expectation. When we see that kind of passion, we see that level of engagement. It's like, okay, how do we go further? How do we make them something they're not expecting? And those early days, a lot of those fan theories and a lot of that conversation is what got folded straight back into the storyline, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, the very first Easter egg was a hidden song written by Kevin Sherwood, who works for Treyarch. And we hid it in Verruc because we made it, and it was like, oh, this is actually a pretty cool song. What can we use it for? Well, let's just put it as an Easter egg in Verruc and see how long it takes people to find it. And it was like an hour. But that was really inspiring. It's like, oh, people are into that. We should hide more stuff. And so it's kind of that's why we even call the quest line Easter eggs still, even though it's no longer really an Easter egg. Yeah. But yeah, it's really cool watching the community discuss all these things. And early on, websites are springing up, and now there's YouTubers everywhere. It's just amazing to be a part of.
Yeah. We've learned not to say this one will take ages, because every time we say anything like that or indicate that this is a big one, they've got it in 24 hours.
But I mean, tell me about that sort of the the gamesmanship of you guys, creating things, and there's definitely, I think, there's a relationship with that community of sort of like, I mean, how does that work, brainstorming, like, especially Easter eggs? I mean, it's stuff that, again, the hunt is part of the fun.
Well, I try, I'll think about it in different levels or different strata to think about, here's the easy ones that you can kind of just easily get. Then here's ones that, they're probably going to have to work in a team to get. And then here's ones that are nigh on impossible. They're not going to get these, which they then do. Yes. But by thinking about it in kind of different ways means that different levels of people, their engagement, there's always something else. There's always another depth them to kind of discover. But over the years, it's got more and more complicated. I started off with a computer science background and programming, so I was like, oh, I'll do the ciphers. I'll do this. They've already exhausted me now. I've got nothing left now. That's all the trickiness over now. So everything's just going to be straightforward. Press X to.
Well, that's why some people will play to find those. Other people will watch someone else play to find them, and it's that's what's fun. Are there any Easter eggs that have not been found?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Your task is at hand. Yeah. Can you tell us which game?
No.
Come on.
Well, here's the thing. So there's a whole bunch that haven't been found, and there's a bunch that they haven't got through it yet. But but when we get into the end, so I try to have a careful relationship with the community, which is close enough but not too close.
Okay.
Because if you get too close, then you're just following what they're asking for.
Yes.
But you want to be aware. You don't want to be deaf to it. So trying to be questions that get asked and say, okay, which one? Where's the Easter eggs you haven't found? I like to be a little bit more separated, and then I'll have people on the team tell me, like, oh, they haven't found that one yet. I'm like, okay, excellent, okay.
But I'm just curious, like, are there dozens of things out there still, or what's?
On the different ones, there's, as little as kind of like a handful up to a couple of handfuls.
So vague. So a handful. So 5, at least 5.
I didn't say how amputated the hand was. But it's part of my stick now is to give nondescript answers to questions.
No, look, but that's part of the fun, I guess.
Yeah.
And now, when you go into something like Black Ops 4, how the Easter eggs, how big of a conversation is it about? I said how convoluted ARG-like these things are going to be.
It's a combination, right? So we'll engage with different departments, different groups, and talk about where we're hiding things. Especially now that we're telling a new story, we've got a brand new story now in Black Ops 4. When we get into the end of the previous story, we were putting more things in ciphers, making it a lot harder because each one could give so much gold, even a small amount. Yeah. But when you go to a new story, then it's almost like a rewinding the mentality back to the beginning, where it's a bit more overt about the story because you want to get people vested and into what's going on, all this kind of stuff. So the mentality has changed as well. Yeah. While something like a Blood of the Dead, so forth, you can go a little bit more hardcore because there's fans who will be really wanting to know the smallest little bit. So kind of combining it and talking about different techniques, whether it be in an animation or be it a sound Easter egg. And sound, being there from the very beginning, has a very special place in my heart, the kind of sound Easter eggs or the audio ones, because that's where they first came from. Those ideas of those recordings, hidden, that you press X on something that we wouldn't tell you, and then some audio log would play. Going into the new story, I like the idea that we kind of roll back to that mentality again.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what you guys have built over the years. Black Ops 4, let's talk a bit about that, because the big reveal on May 17th, you definitely revealed a lot earlier than I think you ever have, right? Yes. On Zombies. It was a massive reveal of all the modes of Black Ops 4. But tell me, the team approaching this, 3-year dev cycle. When you start out, on this new cycle a couple years ago on Black Ops 4 Zombies, what was the original vision? What did you guys want to accomplish this game?
I think the big thing that we were going after was starting a new story.
Yeah.
We've been telling the previous story for 10 years, and there was so much creativity in the team. And we've been blessed with the large majority of the team who are here today were there 10 years ago. Yeah. When we did Chronicles, for example, most of the people who made those maps were making them again for the remaster. And that's why, when Brian's talking about, the joy of going back for the sound, the designers were doing that as well, kind of going back and scripting stuff as well. So the idea is building up, and you're like, okay, could we jam this into the other storyline? Sure, we could. Yeah. But we kind of know where we want to go with that. And so very early on, it was like, let's not keep jamming stuff into a storyline where we know how we want to finish it and where we want to bring it to. Yeah. Let's start this new story. But then that's all scary, because now you're starting something that the audience doesn't know, you're going to reveal for the first time. But that fear and that excitement is what drives the team. That's what made Zombies in the first place so exciting. It was this feeling of, who knows? So taking all the things that the community had taught us and being able to start a new story with new mechanics and new ideas, that's what's driving us. That's what's keeping it exciting. That's what's keeping it fresh. Yeah. And that's what's kind of keeping the team alive and excited.
So on like a 3-year dev cycle like this, the Zombies always sort of have a similar cadence in terms of when you come up with the idea and execute it. I mean, you're obviously doing a lot here, so that is. I don't know, I guess I'm wondering about the evolution of the Zombies mode within sort of a 3-year cycle of prototyping it, because obviously some of it is building off of what the team is doing on the main game too, in terms of systems and technology and everything. So you sort of have to ramp up with the main game in some ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like an asset sharing. So for instance, like the weapons, the multiplayer pretty much dictates the weapon selection we're going to have for the map. And then we'll highlight a handful of them and say, these are the special weapons, or these are the wonder weapons, or whatever that's going to be. But then, because the Zombies mode has grown so much, it's turned to a point now where it has its own kind of feature list, where we're talking about its own game. Yeah, so it's before it was just like, hey, what bits do you have left over? Can we borrow some? And now it's kind of like, we want this. There you go. So,
and I think even probably animation-wise, I mean, we saw from the reveal, I mean, massive cutscenes, and new content, and I mean, this is for
new
the team,
characters.
I'm sure, is a huge part of what you guys do every year now.
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we were reviewing something before we came over here.
Tell us more.
wait.
Cut his mic.
Yeah. But no, but like this new crew, these new 4 are very interesting characters, and we're very excited to explore them and grow them and help them come to life and reveal more about them over time. But to me, that's very exciting, because we want to explore new stories, we want to explore new ways to tell stories or what not to tell, and.
Why'd you point at me when you said that?
Well, because we like to go, in the animation department, we like to go crazy. And Jason has to come in and tell us, like, whoa, hold on.
I killed the fun. That's what he's saying.
No, not at all. No. The collaboration is great, but, us as animators love to just see how far we can take that. And then working with Jason and other departments, we start to wrangle that in, even complementing it with the music. We partner up very early on, and how do these scenes and the audio work together. I mean, it's a real collaborative effort, and through that, it makes it a lot of fun, and we're all working together and getting the different departments and disciplines talking about things. Like, there's things that the audio guys have brought up that I thought, wow, that's a really great idea, and we would incorporate into our scenes and just keep growing the ideas together. It's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, wow. like the music videos, right? That was something, the hidden track in the beginning. When we got a little bit later on, we were like, okay, what can we do with this? Let's do music videos now. Let's tell stories now.
Exactly right.
With the music.
The one was the first music video too. It was based on that, right?
Right. So that idea of like, okay, let's take the lyrics, and then the imagery that we marry with it can then tell the community new things, right? Mm-hmm. All the way to the point where you get to, where are we going, right? Where we were like selling this kind of creepy vibe and a very different song, a very different kind of performance. So again, using the kind of different disciplines, different groups to tell stories, and that's really the kind of key to it. Right?
And like I was saying earlier, what I like about it too, it's our stories aren't just about the movies anymore. It's about how much you want to engage with the story. The more you interact with it and hearing the characters talking to each other, like, what did they just say? And depending on what your combo is, you get more information. And I really love developing that and working that story out.
I think what's cool about it is if you want the story, you have to go find it.
Yeah.
And if you just want to slay the undead, it's all there for you.
And now, so much variety too, right? 3 adventures on launch day.
Yep.
Crazy things like Voyage of Despair. I mean, it's like, I'm sure, as you said, there's stuff not on the cutting room floor. It just gets pushed off to, the DLCs or things like that. How did the campaigns that you are shipping with, tell us a bit about why you decided to push forward with those for launch.
I can't really. So when you're starting a new story off, and this kind of goes to the question that I might not have fully answered before from you, which is, you know, in the early days, it was, okay, here's an idea, and then, okay, we got this level, let's put another idea here. And as we got further and further along, we had to plan a little bit further out, a little bit more further out. And you get to this situation now where when you're starting a new crew, for its success, you need to really kind of think it all the way down the line. But then also, for people who are driven by narrative and our kind of storytelling, it's also important not to tell it in order, but for it not to be timey-wimey for the sake of it, if you will. So Voyage and 9 are 2 key points in the storyline that will be told.
Okay.
But I'm not saying necessarily where they are in that storyline.
So, but it is. So it sounds there is interconnectedness.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the, you know, that's the part that we also want the fans to kind of investigate. So as they're playing, you know, when they're saying about you're not going to get the same line every single time, whoever's next to each other, that's going to allow them to start kind of connecting those threads. You know.
That's why you have.
You know, the timeline coming out in Chronicles was appropriate because everyone had been through that stuff. This one, I would put the challenge out to the community to start making the timeline before I have to.
Got to get more, though. Come on. You also announced you're doing a 4th
That's why you get
map
bots.
classified, right? With
Yes.
the Cartesian. All right, getting to the questions you guys want to hear. So, break it down. What can you tell us?
What can I tell you?
Unclassified
the clues
Coliseum.
the clues in the title. Well, it's going to be based in the Pentagon.
Okay.
And it's
This guy just gave him a shake. Was that what your guess? Okay, there's a bet. What was the bet?
Which crew then?
Ooh.
Which one? Okay, let me tell you this one.
Okay.
So it's the original crew.
Wow.
So it's the Ultimus gang. So Black Ops 4 is going to have our Primus crew in there, and then also our Ultimus crew and our new gang as well.
Wow.
So
all right, Jason.
and that's going to set up some of the craziness that we saw in 5.
That makes complete sense, though. It's going to tie everything.
Why did that happen? How did they get there? All that kind of good stuff. And it's a wonderful style. We're kind of approaching it in a very unique way artistically.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it also kind of folds into all those kind of mechanisms that we talked about on the reveal, so the kind of custom mutations and so forth. All that stuff then works as well. So every map that we're doing all works with the challenger system and so forth. So not only is it a kind of brand new take on that part of the storyline, and obviously a joy to go back and update it and modernize it, but it's a new part
That's
of the story.
so exciting. That's so sick.
I mean, it's just it's insane how much stuff has to interconnect and all be sort of planned together. I mean, when and this is being developed alongside the 3 that'll come out at launch?
Yeah, the whole team is busying away right now. Straight after this, I've got to take these guys home because they've got to go back to work.
Exactly.
After this project.
No, and I mean, even for you guys, you know, you've got, you know, the entire game to sort of think about. And, I mean, you say focus primarily, I guess, on zombie stuff. But for you guys, I mean, now, I mean, it feels like zombies is a big part of what the audio and art teams are working on every year, right? I mean, how do you, because, you know, at least. And now MP obviously is big, and then, you know, Blackout and everything. But it's, you know, zombies is so different. Does it take sort of a disproportionate amount of resources because it's so new?
That's a good question. I don't think so. The way we have our, like in the animation side, we have our teams broken up in the different subgroups. We have cinematics, AI, and player animations. So as we start to develop and design these games, we start putting the resources and the energy in the right places. So it never really feels disproportionate at all. It's just, you know, part of the game development cycle.
I've got to call out for our amazing production department that makes all this stuff work. They're the kind of unsung heroes of all this because, you know, we have obviously our talent and our kind of energy that we're kind of going into different disciplines, but they're sitting in the background making sure all these pieces fit together. So.
Yeah, let me text on that question. What do you guys think?
And audio, I mean, you're doing different sort of soundscapes.
Yeah, I mean, I got to keep people from begging me to work on zombies. That's the easy one.
All right.
Yeah, everybody loves working on it. It's just so much fun and it's so different. You know, if you need to shift gears or you're not feeling creatively inspired on some other part of the game, hey, there's a zombies task for you right here.
Well, that's a good point because I imagine even for the team, you know, working on the same style of game for so many years. It's like, you know, to have this fresh creative palette with zombies every year, I think it feels like a new game. I mean, when you see those trailers for what you guys are doing this year for the 3 campaigns, it's kind of like...
It's fresh every map.
Exactly.
It's every map.
Every new map that comes out, we're like, what are we doing now? All right.
What's it going to be? And in many ways, you can do whatever you want, because I feel like now, time period setting, it's like there is... Is there anything that you guys have proposed that you're like, no, this is too crazy? Like it just doesn't work?
Nope. It's, I mean, that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah.
You know, and there's very few times in a person's career where you have that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, as game professionals, our job is to make the project work and make it to the best of our ability. When you have a project that's so open-ended and supported by the fans so lovingly, it gives us the freedom to be able to try new things, go to new places, and that keeps us alive and fresh with the kind of creativity. And hopefully, you know, they feel that, you know, the community feels it. You know, I've said before, which is, hopefully when you're playing zombies, you can feel every discipline's love for the mode itself coming through. I'm a bit hippie in that way. I feel like if people are loving what they're doing, then you feel it on the receiving end. So that's what we endeavor to do on Zombies all the time.
Well, speaking of the community, I know we've got some. I think we've got a video question from a Facebook fan over at the E3 Hall that wanted to ask you something about that. So we want to take a look now at the video question from a fan on Facebook.
So my question is basically, will any of the previous Zombies lore tie in to the new game? Any of the story continuation or even references to the existing lore, since it was such a great story?
A wonderful question. Yes, that'll be tied into Blood of the Dead.
Okay.
So Blood of the Dead carries on that story. That was easy. I got away with that one.
I
thought that was going to be a hard one.
With a whole map of theories, and like asking you to confirm X, Y, and Z on the timeline. Yeah.
Blood is. I won't say anything more on where that fits in, but it's. Yes, it is carrying on that story. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I think we have another one. Second question. I'm a fan over at the Convention Center.
Hi, I was wondering if you ever see yourself introducing zombies into the Battle Royale mode as something that might distinguish you from other games that are coming out with Battle Royale modes.
All right, get some Blackout scoop. Here we go. Don't tell Vaughn.
Oof. I would. I'm going to use my catch-all answer, which is never say never.
Yes. I mean, when they revealed Black, I mean, he was sort of saying pretty much everything in the world of Black Ops somehow will factor into.
Well, yeah, I mean, the kind of, you know, obviously our characters, and we showed that on our reveal.
Yeah.
You know, locations may also make an appearance there. So there's already kind of a certain level of it, but you know, who knows how that goes, right?
Are you? I mean, how involved are you in sort of? I mean, Blackout, like obviously you got a lot to do, but that's something that...
We're actually staying focused all on our dedicated zombie side. We have dedicated teams for each one of these things. Yeah. So the maps we're doing for launch, which obviously there's 4 maps there, you know, plus a DLC season coming down the road, we got more than enough to focus on in that.
There's a lot there. Yeah. Now, I'm sure, you know, everyone's wondering when we're going to get more on this. It was cool, you know, in May to get details on these campaigns earlier than ever before. Traditionally, I think you guys have held for kind of Comic-Con or summertime to sort of start to share about zombies or later.
Yeah, forget what you know.
What?
That's my marketing line.
Any teases you can sort of tell us about, you know, when we'll hear more or the next sort of phase of information on zombies?
So the next time we'll be talking, we'll be at Comic-Con.
Okay.
So we're going to go to Comic-Con, be chatting there. Yeah. But because we knew we were going to come along today and have the chat with you, there's a couple extra little things that I thought I'd talk about.
You guys into that? Yeah! Pays to stick around until the end of the panel.
So we talked about maps, and we mentioned that, and obviously introduced a new storyline. And we talked about, I think, custom mutations. We talked about that a little bit. I thought I'd mention a couple of new mechanics or twists on mechanics that the audience might find interesting. So for the first time, we're going to give a choice for your starting weapon. So you get to select your starting weapon before you start the map. You'll also be able to select your own special equipment as well to kind of go into the map before you start.
For everything.
For everything. Wow. And then you'll also be able to select your special weapon, which you'll be able to upgrade and move through as you're kind of playing the game. And then as a final point, you'll also be able to choose your, what we're calling perk vapors. of which there'll be over 10 different kind of perk variables, and you'll be able to assign them into the world. So rather than having your kind of perk machine that's just kind of static and staying there, now players will be able to kind of choose what combination of things and how to set it up into the map to change the way the map is played and what abilities and skills they can then have. Wow. So there's a couple of mechanics there.
I was going to say, so this is definitely...
That's an exclusive for you there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You know, I like those. That's amazing. I mean, it feels like that's going to obviously, allow so much more customization. I mean, your loadout effectively when you're kind of...
And that's the kind of thing which is, when we're talking about, the most deepest customizable game we've created, that's part of it, right? Taking all the things which are kind of static or predictable and then giving the players the choice. So not only the choice for me as an individual, but if we're playing together, what's the combination of things that we're taking? And that's part of the strategy you're taking to defeat a map or get an advantage on a map as well.
Wow. All right, you guys into that? All right, well, we will see more, it sounds like, at Comic-Con about that. And got to say, an incredible reveal for Black Ops 4. I know how hard everyone at Treyarch worked to, put all that content together, an hour of stuff. And, we don't even know that much about Blackout yet. I saw Vaughn and Bunting the other day on the YouTube show, and they're like, no more hints. But I think they talked about ballistics of weapons and how, but that was about all we got. So it's amazing to see what you guys are putting together, and we can't wait to see more and play it this October. Give it up to the guys from Treyarch.
Thank you.
Black Ops 4. Thanks, awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll be right back. Check.
Wow. Wow,
Good
how
stuff.
exciting. Let's go, baby.
Thank you. Adam, thanks, man. Brian, yeah, good to see
Couple weeks. We're going to drop this one up there, man. Thank
I
you
think
guys
we
for
need to
having
look
me.
differently
Great.
about the way women
excited.
are represented
Try to make
in
a video
games,
about
but
it,
I
break it
think
down, but
also we're
we'll see you
seeing
guys
some
soon. Maybe I'll
real
get a stream on.
progress being made.